My daughter-in-law rose during the reading of the will and declared she was removing me from my husband's $50 million estate. I sat there completely still. Not a single tear fell. I had nursed him through days when he couldn't even stand. Now she treated me like I was invisible. But when the attorney began to chuckle, something changed inside me. What had Paul hidden away before he died? And why did it seem like he was whispering to me from the other side? I stood by myself in the backyard after the burial, watching the final cars pull away without a sound. They had left scattered cups, folding chairs, and the scent of fresh lilies lingering in the air. But nobody bothered to check if I needed a lift home, not even Rachel. She had handled it all, from the bouquets to the video montage, right? Down to the disposable coffee mugs. It was impeccable in a manner that left you feeling out of place, sterile, perfect, and precisely timed. Paul would have despised it. He always said memorials should be chaotic. Folks ought to sob openly, crack terrible jokes, leave their rain gear behind. It should feel authentic, but this one didn't. It felt staged, like I was enduring the closing scene of a performance I wasn't meant to attend. When I went back into the house, Rachel was already collecting the documents from the kitchen table. I tried to clear my throat to say something, but she kept her eyes down, just piling papers methodically. Then, without glancing over, she said, "We'll proceed with the legal steps next week. I've set it all up with the lawyers." No reference to me. No inquiry about my wishes. No recognition that I'd spent the past half year dozing in a recliner by Paul's bedside, while she jetted off to meetings. I tried to convince myself it was just pressure or sorrow, or perhaps she simply didn't know how to connect with me. But then she passed me a little package with Paul's name etched on it. "He wanted you to have this," she mentioned. Inside was a cufflink, just a plain silver one. No message, no correspondence. Paul had cabinets full of diaries and notes. We used to exchange little memos even when we were under the same roof, but at the end all I received was a cufflink, one he rarely used. Rachel offered a courteous grin and strode away as if that wrapped everything up, as if she had sealed the chapter for us both. That evening I lingered in the dining room with a cooling mug of herbal tea. And for the first time since Paul left, I felt out of place in the home we had created together. The walls still carried his cologne. His novels lined the corridor. But it was as if my presence had been subtly wiped from every space. I assured myself I might be reading too much into it. Maybe I was simply exhausted. But deep down, something had altered. There was an unnamed chill in the atmosphere, and it wasn't merely from mourning. It felt like I had been gently excised from the narrative, like everyone else had. Gotten an updated version except me. Have you ever glanced around your own residence and felt like an outsider? That's what hit me that night, and it was only the start. The notice arrived via email. Stark and official, dispatched from Rachel's aide, not even from her personally. Subject estate settlement session arranged. I gazed at it for a bit, uncertain if I should feel offended or just detached. The gathering was set for Wednesday at 9 in the morning at her company's city center location. No personal note, no wish that you're coping, just a slot and a dress like a routine checkup. That day I showed up a few minutes behind schedule. Roads were jammed, and I had paused twice, debating if I should even bother. The lift doors parted to a modern lobby smelling of mint and fresh prints. A youthful helper shot me a glance, suggesting she wasn't anticipating my type. I straightened my jacket and trailed her to the meeting area. The door shut softly behind me. 7 individuals encircled the lengthy table, all in somber attire. Rachel positioned at the front, her hair tied neatly, gaze locked on the heap of files before her. She didn't rise, didn't greet me. She merely inclined her head faintly, as if to indicate, "You can take that spot there." I settled into the chair at the opposite end. It was the sole vacant one, distant from the documents, distant from the beverages. Nobody passed me a dossier. Nobody uttered a syllable. Rachel adjusted her voice. "As the administrator of the estate," she started, "I'll guide us through the asset allocation as specified in the confirmed testament." Her tone was crisp, businesslike, as though leading a corporate assembly. I remained quiet, my fingers interlaced on my lap. I was the only one without a writing tool. She covered investments, fiduciary, accounts, a pair of business sites in Portland, and the shared stake in a vineyard Paul had backed with buddies. Then she revealed that Paul had shifted main oversight of the household fund to her 6 months earlier. I fluttered my eyelids. That couldn't be. I had overseen that fund alongside Paul for almost 2 decades. He never hinted at handing it to her. Rachel pressed on without a break, reciting distributions like cataloging stock. My name never surfaced. Toward the close, one of the colleagues inquired, "And Mrs. Sloane's portion?" Rachel scarcely lifted her eyes. "There are no leftover allotments designated to her in the present submission." Just like that, no gaze, no rationale, just the formal way of being deleted. I sensed an odd warmth climb my back, but my palms stayed calm. I didn't voice anything. The space fell hushed a moment too extended, but nobody pursued it. The discussion resumed. When it concluded, I lingered for the others to depart. Rachel stowed her case deliberately, almost as if anticipating me to comment, but I held back. I rose, fixed my shawl, and exited without a backward glance. Below, the brisk breeze stung my face. I didn't weep. I didn't even feel sorrowful yet, just empty, like I'd observed a rendition of my existence. Fold into a file and get stored under another's label. Rachel hadn't merely seized authority in that chamber. She claimed the tale, the residence, the past. She had overridden my quietude, and nobody had doubted it, not even once. As I headed to the parking structure, one phrase resonated in my thoughts. There are no leftover allotments designated to her. I wasn't a bereaved spouse anymore. I wasn't even an entry. I was zilch. I returned home and lingered in the shadows for hours that day. I didn't wish to illuminate the rooms. The quiet within the house echoed louder than any dialogue I could endure. I still hadn't cleared the final items from Paul's medical stay. His walking stick leaned by the rear, entrance where he placed it after our last treatment visit. I hadn't shifted it. I couldn't. Later that night, I drew open the compartment in Paul's office. It wasn't planned. My fingers moved before my brain registered. The drawer creaked as always. He used to claim it required lubrication. I always replied I preferred it that way. That noise meant he was present. Within were aged mailer's bills from literature, purchases his preferred, automatic pencil, and some worn, adhesive reminders with shopping lists. At the rear, under a bound record, I discovered a small beige file I didn't know. No tag, no timestamp. I unfolded it and saw 3 pages. The uppermost was a scrawled rough copy. His script, distinct though somewhat unsteady, covered the sheet. No salutation, no closing, just a brief memo in his subdued manner. Rachel urges me to revise the testament. Says it must mirror present assets. I questioned why immediately, and she replied for precision. I believe she's being overly cautious. She's begun preparing forms for me. I haven't endorsed any yet. I haven't informed Margaret. I know she'd pose the queries I'm scared of. I examined the sheet. My vision scanned it repeatedly, seeking another interpretation. But the content was straightforward. He had reservations. He hadn't shared with me. He had detected something, but he remained mute. The next page was a duplicate of the latest testament I had never viewed. Rachel had displayed the authorized version in the session, but this was evidently distinct. There were marks in the borders, modifications, fixes, several, parts ringed in crimson ink. My name had been included. The line stated, in the case of my departure, I bequeath my individual holdings, including residence, portions, and assigned funds to my spouse, Margaret Sloan. It had been struck through. Scrawled in the side was a remark. Review with Rachel. The third page was a printed list of meetings, legal advice sessions. 2 dates were from months past when Paul was cycling through care. I hadn't known he was consulting anyone. I was with him almost every moment then. The only periods he was solitary were when Rachel arrived to assume control. The file was slim, but it felt like a ton in my grasp. I set the sheets tenderly on the desk and reclined. The overhead fan rotated gradually and consistently. I shut my eyes, recalling the final time Paul and I discussed the testament. It was during supper, ordinary, peaceful like any evening. He had said, "You don't need to fret about a thing, Meg. I've ensured that." I recalled how he extended across the table and gripped my arm. I recalled how his finger pressed softly into my flesh. Now all I could sense was the icy mark of his lack. I didn't rest that night. I remained in the office rereading the sheets, until the horizon turned from dark to faint ash. I observed the dawn form around me, one edge at a time. By morning, I realized this wasn't merely an error. It wasn't an administrative miss. This was purposeful. Rachel had engineered something, and Paul had perceived it, perhaps even attempted to halt it, but it was too late. I returned the sheets to the file and concealed it beneath a pile of vintage travel magazines in the entry closet. I didn't know my next move yet. I lacked a strategy, but I knew I couldn't ignore this. The following day, I phoned David Crow. We hadn't conversed in ages, not since Paul's farewell event. David had always been reliable, the sort of guy who never elevated his tone, but still commanded attention. Paul relied on him. So did I. He answered on the second tone, and when I stated my name, he hesitated, briefly before replying. His voice was composed, but I detected the astonishment below. He consented to meet the next day. As I ended the call, I positioned by the glass and gazed over the lawn. The breeze was pulling at the remaining oak leaves, the same trees Paul had set 30 years back. He said they'd endure us both, and perhaps they would, but I wasn't going to let quiet be the last gift he left, not while I still drew breath. David joined me at a serene side cafe on Maple Avenue. It remained unchanged over time. Still the same timber booth, scratched cups, and gentle music floating above. He slipped into the bench, opposite me, jacket damp from the light, rain, and offered a subdued nod. I didn't delay. I opened the beige file and slid it across. He perused without words, mouth set in a narrow line. When he got to the note in Paul's script, his forehead creased. He didn't talk immediately. He just turned the pages back and forth as if piecing a chronology in his mind. I sat motionless, my palms around a tepid cup of tea. Seeing him read made it all more tangible, like I hadn't fabricated the revisions, or the scarlet marks, or that phrase that once bore my name now, lined out in hush. He finally uttered, not with alarm, not with sympathy, just a calm certainty that indicated he'd encountered similar before. It's beyond dubious, he said. It's calculated. He retrieved a notepad from his pocket and started listing. He noted dates from the file titles of legal groups. Rachel had referenced and encircled one specific point I hadn't considered. The endorser signatures on the updated testament weren't familiar. None had ever visited our home. Paul always chose known people, a local, a pal from the tennis group. The fact Rachel brought outsiders without informing me raised flags. We decided to investigate discreetly. No showdown, not yet. David said we'd begin by confirming the last testament filed with the state. He'd obtain verified duplicates and compare with my notes. Meanwhile, I'd maintain everything as is. Back home, I accessed the entry closet and secured the file in a safe box for travel docs and health records. Then I sat at Paul's former desk and opened his scheduler. Rachel had claimed most of his items already. She boxed his books, gave away his wardrobe, and shipped his tennis gear to a friend. But the scheduler was here, a basic leather planner with pencil scribbles. That's where I spotted the name Harry Gibson. It was noted on a Wednesday morning, double-circled. I vaguely knew the name. He was a finance advisor Paul met via a charity long ago. I hadn't seen him in forever, but that Paul met him during illness without telling me hurt deeply. I contacted David and informed him. He said he'd check, perhaps connect quietly. If Harry was involved in planning even shortly, he might have noticed something. Rachel didn't want seen. The next days dragged. I continued routines as if unaltered. Market Trips Plant Care Book Group, though, I said little that week. On the outside, all seemed normal, but inside I was vigilant, observing, anticipating. Then on Saturday, David rang. He had talked with Harry. What he shared made my gut sink. Harry recalled Paul arriving looking frail and weary, barely holding a pen. They discussed the fund for almost an hour, about recipients and long-term safeguards for me, but Harry said Paul seemed reluctant. He kept saying Rachel would manage, that she was assisting. Harry offered an independent audit for clarity, but Paul never pursued. A week later, Rachel canceled and said Paul no longer required it. David paused, letting it absorb. He said Harry kept the entry notes. Not binding, but they showed Paul's concerns. Intent hesitation that could open an official probe if we chose. I thanked him and sat on the bed edge, phone in hand, long after. That night I drew an old picture collection, not for sentiment, but for insight. I viewed images of Paul at gatherings, holidays, meals with friends. In most, Rachel was in the back, smiling, aiding, lingering. I once thought her devoted, wanting our best. But now I saw the strategic placement, how she always became the trusted one for details, files, schemes. She had prepared for years. And the worst wasn't the disloyalty. It was knowing Paul sensed wrong and didn't tell me. I shelved the collection and dimmed the light. No fury in me, not yet. Only a calm determination that whatever Rachel rewrote, I'd find a way to restore. I didn't rest much after David's call. I'd always valued patience, letting people reveal themselves. But now, each day without answers felt like allowing Rachel to reshape history her way. The next Tuesday, David called again. His voice quicker, more pressing, but steady. He reviewed state files and found oddity. The final testament filed had a different reference number than the initial draft. Not alarming alone, but the original we reviewed a year prior vanished from archives. Marked replaced, but no record of who started the change. David wanted to involve another. Her name, Laura Vargas, a estate dispute expert. Experienced in challenged testaments and paper fraud. I agreed, though, hesitated. Deeper digging might reveal worse. We met at David's place Wednesday morning. Laura was keen in speech and demeanor. Mid-50s, plainly dressed, no extra motion. She listened as David outlined our findings. She asked pointed questions, some at me, then requested copies of all notes, planner entries, Harry's scans, even Rachel's notices. When David mentioned unknown endorsers, she arched a brow. Said their names appeared in prior case. Uncertified signers paid to approve without proper attendance or check. She noted on a pad without stop, then looked up and said this wasn't careless. It was built. I didn't speak long, just watched them operate like experts over my life's remains. Then I rose, walked to the glass, and viewed the town. Paul said he liked views to remind how tiny we are. No matter plans, life continues around us. Before leaving, Laura said she'd submit a quiet court inquiry. If Rachel filed improper, there'd be trace email time mark disguise trail. Back home, I entered the storage for first time in weeks. Opened Paul's old cabinet. Still smelled of smoke and wood. Pulled bottom drawer for tax files. Inside folders by year 2 decades back. In last year's a paper titled, Adjustable Trust Supplement. Unsigned. Draft. Wording changed multiple times, like Paul debated phrasing. But striking was Survivor Safeguard section. My name clear with his script notes suggesting extras. Medical home legal aids things he wanted me worry-free. Beside in margin, Paul scribbled, we discussed. Rachel said she'd manage. It felt like seeing him relinquish, perhaps from fatigue or misplaced faith. I copied and called David. He said, bring tomorrow. That night I sat outside with tea listening to breeze. My body hurt not from years, but from secret burden not mine. I thought how easily my name, removed from lifetime billed how. Quickly another filled his silence. For years love meant unquestioned trust. But maybe love meant guarding. Truth when another couldn't, even if inconvenient. Even if reopening scars barely healed. Next morning I woke pre-dawn dressed carefully, not vanity, but clarity. Needed to feel like woman, Paul wed not ghost. Rachel tried to cut. Arrived with new paper. Laura there. She read quietly, lips tight. Finished, looked up, said it helps greatly. Explained next motion to hold estate assets. If court approves, Rachel loses movability until resolved. Not vengeance, safeguard. I nodded. Didn't need vengeance. Needed room to breathe, chance to recall. Paul, not as lever but trier, who maybe failed shield me. But if she rewrote our terms, I'd rewrite close my way quietly, purposefully, and it starts now. Laura phoned me 3 days later with updates. The request to halt the estate was granted. It was short-term, but meant Rachel couldn't shift money or titles without court awareness. I didn't respond much when she shared. I just breathed out and let the quiet settle. It felt like the initial firm stride ahead. That same day I got a package in the post. No sender. Inside a lone sheet, a printed notice. Rachel hosting a closed gathering at the golf club, a homage to. Paul drinks and appetizers, a benefit sale in his honor. On the reverse, the date only 4 days off. I examined it long. No prior word, no call, no message. Yet she had the nerve to send a shiny card with raised print. Like I was a visitor, not the woman who shared 43 years with Paul. I didn't discard it. I stowed it in the table drawer by the sofa and pondered. That night I rang David. Told him I planned to go. He didn't question why. Offered to join for surprises, but I refused. This wasn't clash, not yet. This was about being there, about holding ground in a space someone tried to delete me from. When Saturday came, I dressed thoughtfully. Blue pants, a silk top Paul gifted for our 35th. A fine chain, nothing bold, nothing noisy, but all deliberate. The club lot was packed on arrival. I knew half the names at the entry. Paul's pals, co-workers, panel members. Folks who dined at our place cheered. Milestones sent holiday greetings. Inside, bright wood surfaces, flower arrangements. A gold-framed photo of Paul by the drinks. The one Rachel pushed for the notice, where he looked worn, smile faint. I loathed that image. Rachel centered it all, graceful, collected, every action measured. She welcomed attendees with a slight head dip like royalty accepting subjects. When she spotted me, her look wavered briefly. Then she smiled. I nodded but didn't mirror. I headed to a calmer spot near auction displays, labeled as Paul's cherished items. A autographed football and antique stylus, a rare book I gave him birthday. I touched the book edge. My name absent from tag. I retreated. A stranger approached, introduced as Paul's past associate. Spoke warmly, said nice seeing me. Then asked how I handled the estate, any fun shifts. I stared surprised. He thought I remained overseer. When I said no, removed before Paul left, his expression changed. Mild puzzle, polite unease. Then nodded and left. It wasn't big, but revealed. Rachel hadn't shared full facts, not on testament. Not on control change, not on items she took from home without okay. I lingered 20 more, minutes enough to chat with Paul's old panel mate who casually mentioned email from Rachel weeks pre-Paul's end. Included donation ideas, legal terms, managing duties phrase. I thanked, smiled, excused. Kin car sat motor off, hands on wheel. That's when it solidified. Rachel didn't wait for Paul's passing. She started transition while he breathed. Used illness as shield, his faith as tool, my quiet as approval. But that quiet ended. Next day met David and Laura. Gave my notes. All from that night, every word, every mismatch. Laura reclined reflective. More than money breach. Now suggested planned force may be pressure. David concurred. They'd draft challenge. Motion, not just my part, but for Paul's true wishes' integrity. I walked home slow, not tired, but to remind who I was. The spouse, the observer, the one remaining after cheers faded, now ready to voice. The next Monday started with drizzle, fine, constant, relentless. I sat at breakfast table with coffee watching. Drops strike glass like small nudges world keeps, going even when you pause inside. At precisely 9:15, David called. Said Laura filed challenge on fraud and influence grounds. Court took its set initial review in 2 weeks. Short just base but allows discovery. We could request inner talks, money logs, digital files from Rachel's group. Felt like unsealing a door. That day met Laura at her spot. She was calling, so aid led to small meet room with estate papers spread. Color tags printed messages wall timeline. Laura joined 10 minutes holding printout. Email Rachel sent 6 weeks pre-Paul marked private. Subject adjusted setup prompt steps. Body brief clear. Instructed team speed trust finalize remove optional parts. My name 1 short line. Eliminate joint recipient rights per talk. That was it. My whole role decades with Paul cut to email line. Laura didn't glance at me. Didn't need. Just asked if ready for review and process after. I said yes, no doubt. Next days blurred in forms and steady resolve. Avoided extra talks, kept low. Walked evenings through area passing homes with lingering decor. Outside unchanged. But I knew betrayals come soft in messages ink name wipe. By Thursday, Laura compiled for summons. Filed for full Paul's digital talks last 6 months. Also request question 1 Rachel's aide who approved disputed papers under watch. David checked files noted 2 sign time mismatches. Both logged Sunday night when place closed. Reading that hands froze. Paul hated weekend work never signed without my read. Those Sunday dates told all. Gave Laura okay for script expert. Compare known signs from health files to revised. Not final but doubt raiser. Sat silent that night. Not grief but insight. First time in months felt shift. That weekend drove to burial site. Quiet. Sky low gray. Paul's marker simple. Full name dates short below. Lived kindly. Left lovingly. Stood long. Didn't talk aloud but let moment weigh. Knew he trusted wrong left undone. No longer blamed. Spent nights wondering end thoughts if tried, protect failed. Didn't matter. I'd protect truth. Home message from Laura Short. Aide agreed speak. Depose next Tuesday. Ready discuss noticed mismatches. Not sure meaning but kept notes. That's when cracked. Rachel planned edits, silenced questions but forgot variable. Someone saw, noticed, ready talk. As dimmed lights stood bedroom door longer usual. Bed neat. Dresser photo us in Oregon laughing wind tilted left. First time weeks didn't feel outsider in story. Felt woman returning place. Not anger but truth. Tuesday crisp quiet arrived. Laura's, city not awake, sidewalks fog muted, suspended. Inside lights on. David sorting thick record folder. Laura by glass soft phone. Table small recorder teacup for guest. Name Anna Kingsley mid-30s keen-eyed but hand fidget like fear placement unsure. Arrived prompt gray sweater dark pants. No cosmetics, no accessories, just quiet resolve. Laura seated outline depot rules. Anna nodded, understood, reviewed papers. Kept copies. Not accused direct. Wanted truth clear. Started timeline. Rachel brought into revisions 6 weeks pre-Paul. Anna found unusual bypass standards. Normally Big Amend had meets reviews approvals, but moved fast too fast. Described evening stayed late. Back for coat saw Rachel staffer in room unsigned stack. Rachel asked witness sign. Didn't see Paul sign direct. Asked Rachel dismissed, said he left urgent just witness. No issue. Moment lingered Anna noted planner. Brought page. Note simple. 7:43 p.m. Sunday. Witnessed for R no P there. Laura asked gentle clears. Anna composed. Not bitter. Not seeking issue, but noticed mismatches. Sign date, not match file data. Testament format changed. Remove need. My cosign is joint. David Laura glanced. Then Anna added. Overheard Rachel call office about quick asset spread. Stuck phrase dissolve quietly, no holds. 2 days pre-Paul final hospital. When Anna left knew off, but Rachel power sway Anna had lone kid job can't lose. Now hearing questions couldn't silent. Signed statement dated. Laura thanked David escorted. Door closed, Laura sat hands flat table. Break needed. Not suspicion. Timestamp witness language suggest. Manipulation may be early. Intent enough judge request full trust check. David leaned, breathed deep. First relief on face, but I didn't feel. Not yet knew next. Rachel learn. Winded wouldn't freak. She'd scheme. 2 days later started. Got letter her lawyer sleek cold. Accused me meddle legal shift. Claimed grief misread bitterness motive. Threat pursue costs if not withdraw 10 days. Read 3 times folded neat by morning drink. Called David. Asked okay. Said more than years. Just quiet. Silence not yield. He chuckled soft. Best heard week. Afternoon, Laura sent full reply. Attached Anna notes. Depot data compares. Paul's prior drafts planner security. Logs show no building entry weekend supposed signed. Package heavy. Carried weight more intent. Not accuse revenge. Reclaim truth buried under ease control. Evening sat rear deck blanket listened wine trees. First allowed new feel. Not sad, not rage, but stability grounded no. Akel rewrote Paul's last part, but red ink bled I held original draft. Notice came cream envelope. No stamp door slipped. Not Rachel direct. From estate panel co-signed Paul's long partner. Formal meet at Foundation New Space finalize exec shift. No suit mention, no my challenge, only close tone. Set Thursday 2 p.m., read over drink once twice. Folded set by plate like ad, but knew not courtesy. Show. Rachel wanted me see what she thought won. Watch her sit chair I once beside smile like earned. Called Laura said attending. David paused when mentioned but I said no worry. No scene. Needed see. Feel gap who was who becoming. That Thursday arrived early. New foundation glass structure downtown marble quiet lifts. Front led to meet room. Knew few faces men Paul worked education. Women hugged me events past food called dear. All smiled polite controlled none asked absence. Table had Rachel. Suit deep blue. Hair not perfect. Simple timepiece white top. Power quiet shades. Saw me smile tight brief surprise then calm. Nodded took far seat. Meet started niceties recent gifts future notes. Listened silent. Standard. Strategy no heart. Reached transition oversight Rachel cleared. Thanked support. Spoke Paul's dream continuity duty wait. Rehearsed. Then said room pause. Thanked me said stood by Paul early helped base what became. But phrase never forget. Now with your blessing I advance it. Your blessing. Like I yielded handed. Sat still utterly. Reached bag pulled small envelope. Quiet passed to man beside Paul's oldest board friend. He puzzled took. Inside notarized Anna letter Laura. Summary brief red marked page. Rachel changed original trust. He silent passed next. Moments Rachel noticed smile stiff. Hands stopped. Didn't raise voice. Didn't explain. Let paper move. Reached table end stood. Thanks invite said. My lawyer contact if need clear. Walked out. Not hurried, not mad, just plain. Drove home windows open city sound in. Laura called evening. Heard from board, concerned. Want internal check before final shift. David said best. Table moment not clash. Redirect. Rachel expected fade. Never expected truth show. Next days shifted quiet, meaningful. Board delayed vote. Rachel lawyer quiet. Request neutral eval contested changes. Even if no legal stain there. Doubt pause. In that space found something months absent. Balance. That Saturday took. Paul's old file box study one with Foundation Start Charter. Mentor notes first grant right. Read each slow. Pact called David. Wanted archived proper not buried legal, not named just kept. Story we built before tamper. Ended week walk by lake near old home. Air cold clean wake sharp here. First long no defend need. Truth own voice. No scream. No accuse. Just exist undeniable steady. Enough. Days after board strangely calm. No rings, no warnings, no law letters veiled wants. Like curtain fell Rachel stage audience left soft. But didn't confuse quiet end. Laura warned these times strategic. Quiet means regroup. But this time not me prepare. Done part. Told truth. Her turn face. Spent week own pace small water plants red paper kitchen make soup Paul liked. No rush chase reasons. Some betrayal unexplained piece that. Then Sunday Laura called afternoon. Unexpected email Rachel team. No more challenge inquiry. Rachel stepping from exec foundation full. No wrong admit only state preserve rep respect Paul's memory. Didn't cheer. Didn't call. Walked out coat winner air face. Cold true clear. Next Tuesday foundation short press confirm change. Name temp oversight old board worked Paul early. David forwarded copy with personal note 1. Said only you right guard what counts. Stared words longer expected. Not showy. Not fix hurt but acknowledge deep apology. That week Laura met last person. Prepared summary case stand next if want seek damages restore. Laid paths clear options tidy. Thanked but said no. Not interested drag. Not forgive Rachel but won what mattered. Took name back from erase try. Reinsert history helped build. More refuse small own story eyes. That night sat study open drawer years untouched. Inside Paul notes letters travel slips book list unread. Also sealed envelope unrecognized no label tucked ledger. Opened slow. Inside copy earlier testament year before Rachel revision. Detailed wishes foundation trust my lifelong joint role. Margin pages, personal phrases, trip mentions, legacy balance talks. Eyes filled, read final part. Wrote, no matter happen, wanted values. We built core all foundation touch. Family, not names, blood. Stand beside silence, no watch. Signed pen. No witness intent. Sat paper till room dark. Next morning took document, David asked archive. Not proof, not court history. Few weeks later, returned foundation first since fallout. Atmosphere quieter, less shine, less scare. New committee warm greet. Asked guide Paul's early award program. Offered review files, help could. Didn't ask official return, didn't expect. Not point. Not a point. Their witness ensure we built, not vanish under edits. Left hour walk, slow lot. Winter sun, low shadow, pavement long. Stood car, looked glass build. Shimmer but no intimidate. Just placeholder, no need approve. That night lit candle kitchen, sat window tea. Thought Paul Anna quiet brave, Laura David showed not pro but believe integrity. Thought self not woman. Silent first will read but woman. Return full not. Fight scene, reclaim place, right. Story end own hand. Month since Rachel formal step world softened unexpected. Without court lawyers, hold document, wait review, move different. Morning slow. No reach planner before tea finish. Sits on room, Paul's blanket legs, winter light, wood floors, let stillness enough. Stillness realize not chaos lack. Reward face it. Laura dropped final packet afternoon. Mostly close. Handled end inquiries, record statements, ensure original trust roll public file. Done. No challenge more. Didn't talk much day. Soft smile, handed envelope, sat minutes, no say. Stood squeezed hand, gentle left. After placed folder top. Paul's desk not locked belong there, beside notes quiet beliefs. Weekend visited garden behind center, we funded years. Winter yes, but keeper planted early bulbs, tulips. Lily some weight surface. Even frost life ready bloom. Walked path edge, recall ribbon cut, Paul held hand plaque unveil. Still there weathered, steady like us. Read honor those plant future may not see. Times last month's feared future erased hadn't. Buried pride ambition now uncovered. Later week letter young scholar first education. Heard foundation changes. Wanted no grant years change life. Now local nonprofit mentor girls like her grow. Note brief strong. Didn't know full. Didn't need. Matter we start reached her now pass forward. That night sat, kitchen looked around. Same space once shut unseen voiceless. Now silence different. Full. Held memory insight peace. Not burn down. Refuse vanish. Spring came slow year. Tulips community garden bloom. First follow soft early rose line sidewalk foundation. Didn't go often enough connect remember. One morning small invite mail. Cream envelope raised print. Annual donor meal Paul I established 2 decades hadn't attend years. Strange see name honored guest again. Not sure go, not afraid, no need prove. But went. Chose soft gray outfit pinned Paul's old pin collar. Small pine silver steady root quiet. Ballroom unchanged. Shine floors, round tables, soft tune back, people mingle, polite update. Rachel not there. Name faded programs replace interim committee new vision. Didn't speak much. Watched. Near end event newer board woman named. Sarah took stage. Young spoke calm grace. Thanked guide foundation transition. Paused. Looked. My way said name not ceremony warmth. Spoke brief early days, Paul's mission, quiet strength, hold mission storms. Stepped down room, turned me gentle clap wave. Stood brief nodded. Not recognize, not attention, final gesture, small acknowledge, long road walk, no hide. Had name enough. That night walked home alone. Past old shop Paul stop every Sunday. Smiled saw favorite novel window. Back kitchen brewed tea opened rear door. Air cool soft. Stepped out looked sky. Wide open complete mine. Not woman erased. Not holder another legacy version. Whole finally home own story. If this tale remind time reclaim voice value place family legacy no not alone. Tales like carry us pieces. Sometimes quiet wins most powerful. Thanks journey with me. The quiet after the donor meal lingered like a soft echo in my days. I found myself waking with a sense of ease I hadn't known in months. No more scanning emails for legal updates, no more bracing for the next revelation. Instead, I filled my time with simple rituals that grounded me back into the life Paul and I had shared before everything unraveled. Mornings in the garden, tending to the emerging shoots, afternoons lost in books, from his collection evenings with a warm meal and reflections that no longer stung as sharply. It was as if the storm had passed, leaving behind a clearer sky. One crisp morning, as I sipped my coffee, the phone rang. It was David, his voice carrying a mix of professionalism and warmth. He had some final loose ends to tie up, he said, but mostly he called to check in. We talked for a while about nothing in particular, the weather, the latest news, a new cafe that had opened downtown. Then he mentioned almost casually that the foundation had reached out to him. They were considering renaming. One of their scholarship programs in Paul's honor and wanted my input on the details. I paused the mug halfway to my lips. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it felt right away to weave his memory back into the fabric, without the shadows Rachel had cast. I told David I'd think about it, but deep down I already knew I'd say yes. Not for recognition, but for continuity. For ensuring that the good we started kept flowing forward. That afternoon, I walked to the local library, a place Paul and I frequented on lazy Sundays. The smell of aged paper and quiet whispers welcomed me like an old friend. I browsed the shelves, pulling out volumes. He loved histories, biographies, tales of resilience. Sitting in a corner armchair, I flipped through one feeling, the weight of the pages like echoes of our conversations. He always said stories were the best teachers, showing us how others navigated loss and triumph. As I read a passage about a woman who rebuilt her life after betrayal, it mirrored my own path so closely that I had to set the book down for a moment. Tears came unbidden, not from pain, but from a profound sense of connection. Paul had left me more than assets. He had left me lessons woven into the everyday. Returning home, I decided to sort through more of his things, not to discard, but to cherish. In the attic, amid boxes of forgotten treasures, I found an old trunk filled with our travel mementos postcards. From Europe, ticket stubs from concerts, a pressed flower from our honeymoon in the mountains. Each item sparked a memory, laughter shared under foreign skies, quiet nights by campfires, debates over maps and routes. I sat on the dusty floor surrounded by these relics and let the emotions wash over me. Grief, yes, but also gratitude for the depth of what we had. Rachel's actions had tried to diminish that, but they couldn't touch the intangible, the love that lived beyond papers and signatures. That evening, as the sun dipped low, I lit a candle in his study and wrote a letter not to anyone in particular, but to him, pouring out the journey, the doubts, the discoveries, the quiet victory. It felt cathartic, like closing a loop that had been left open too long. I sealed it and placed it in the drawer with the other notes, knowing it was for my healing more than anything. The next day brought an unexpected visitor. It was Sarah, the young board member from the luncheon. She stood on my doorstep with a tentative smile, holding a folder. She apologized for dropping by unannounced, but said she wanted to discuss the scholarship in person. We sat in the living room over tea, and she outlined their ideas, focusing on education for underserved youth, something Paul was passionate about. As we talked, I shared stories of his early efforts, how he mentored kids personally, how he believed in second chances. Her eyes lit up and she jotted notes, saying my insights would shape the program beautifully. It was a bridge I hadn't anticipated, connecting the past to the future in a way that honored us both. After she left, I felt a surge of energy. I called Laura to thank her again for everything. Her voice was warm, efficient as always. She mentioned that Ava had reached out too, now working at a new firm, feeling freer after speaking her truth. It reminded me how one act of courage ripples outward, touching lives in unseen ways. That night I dreamed of Paul, vivid and real. We were walking the lake path, hand in hand, the wind carrying our laughter. He turned to me with that familiar twinkle and said, "You did good, Meg. Keep going." Waking up, I carried that dream like a talisman, a reminder that even in absence he was with me. Weeks turned into a gentle rhythm. I volunteered at the community center, helping with reading programs, finding joy in the children's eager faces. It was Paul's influence alive through me. One afternoon, while organizing books, a young girl asked about my pin, the silver pine tree. I told her it belonged to my husband, a symbol of strength and roots. She smiled and said it suited me. In that moment, I realized how far I'd come from the frozen woman at the will reading to someone who wore her story with quiet pride. The Foundation's annual report arrived in the mail, glossy and professional. Flipping through, I saw the new scholarship, announced with a dedication to Paul and a mention of my contributions. It wasn't about credit, it was about legacy preserved. I placed it on the shelf next to our photo, feeling a chapter close softly. As spring deepened, I planned a small trip to the mountains where we honeymooned. Packing light, I included his favorite book, intending to read it aloud at our old spot. It was a way to honor, to remember to move forward without leaving him behind. The drive was peaceful, the scenery awakening with green. Arriving, I hiked the familiar trail, the air fresh and invigorating. At the overlook, I sat and read the words echoing in the breeze. Tears mixed with smiles, a blend of loss and love. Returning home, I felt renewed, ready for whatever came next. The estate fully settled now, with my place secured, but more importantly, my peace intact. Rachel faded into the background, her chapter closed. Mine continued open and full. If this resonates with your own battles for truth in place, know that quiet persistence often wins the day. Thank you for sharing this path. With the mountains behind me, I returned to a home that felt truly mine again. The echoes of the past months had softened, replaced by a steady calm. Mornings began with sunlight filtering. Through the curtains, a gentle invitation to the day. I took to journaling not daily, but when thoughts overflowed, capturing the small victories, the lingering questions, the evolving sense of self. One entry stood out where I wrote about forgiveness, not for Rachel, but for myself. For the times I doubted my strength. It was liberating, like shedding an old skin. A surprise came midweek, an invitation from the Foundation for a mentorship workshop. They wanted me to speak, share insights from Paul's work and my experiences. I hesitated at first, the idea of standing before others recounting the journey. But then I thought of the young scholars, the lives touched and accepted. Preparing, I sifted through old notes, his speeches, my memories, weaving them into a narrative of resilience. The day arrived crisp and clear. The room filled with eager faces, young professionals, community leaders. I stood at the podium, the silver pin gleaming, and began. My voice steady, I spoke of Paul's vision, how challenges test but don't define us, sharing snippets of the estate, ordeal without bitterness, framing it as a lesson in advocacy. The audience leaned in, questions followed, thoughtful and engaging. One woman approached. After saying my story gave her courage to contest her own family issues. It was a full circle moment, healing through helping. That evening, David called to congratulate, hearing about the talk through mutual friends. We laughed about old times, planned a casual lunch. Meeting him at this cafe felt like reuniting with an ally, the bond forged in adversity now relaxed. Over sandwiches, he shared updates, the foundation thriving under new leadership. Inquiries closed, no further ripples from Rachel. It was closure wrapped in conversation. Inspired, I delved deeper into volunteering, expanding to a local women's group offering support for those navigating loss and legal hurdles, sharing resources. Listening to stories, it mirrored my path. Empowering others empowered me. One session, a participant echoed my feelings of erasure in her divorce. We connected over coffee, her gratitude reinforcing my purpose. Home became a sanctuary of projects. I redecorated subtly, adding touches that honored Paul, a new painting of the lake-framed letters on the wall. It breathed new life into spaces once heavy with absence. Friends noticed during visits, commenting on the warmth. One brought a plant, a symbol of growth. Evenings often ended with music, his favorite jazz, filling the room, swaying gently, memories dancing along. A letter arrived from Anna, unexpected but welcome. She wrote of her new role, the freedom after speaking up, how my resolve inspired her. Enclosed a photo of her child, a reminder of stakes beyond ourselves. I replied, sharing encouragement, feeling the web of connections strengthen. As summer approached, I planned garden enhancements, planting flowers Paul loved. Digging soil, felt therapeutic roots taking hold, mirroring my own. Neighbors stopped by, chats turning into friendships. The isolation of grief lifting. The Foundation's summer gala invited me as guest of honor. Attending in a flowing dress, the pin affixed, I mingled with ease. Sarah introduced me to donors, their interest genuine. A silent auction raised funds for the scholarship I donated. Item assigned, book from Paul's collection fetching high bids. It was gratifying seeing legacy thrive. Reflecting that night stars bright, I acknowledged the transformation. From hollow at the will reading to whole in my narrative. The journey taught that truth whispered or declared has power. If you've faced similar erasures, no reclaiming. Your space is possible, one quiet step at a time. Grateful for the walk together. Summer unfolded with warmth and possibility, wrapping my days in a gentle embrace. The garden bloomed vibrantly, colors splashing against the green, a living testament to renewal. I spent hours there, weeding, pruning, finding solace in the earth's rhythm. One afternoon, amidst the roses, a butterfly landed nearby, its wings a delicate reminder of transformation. It mirrored my path from cocooned grief to freer flight. The Foundation's scholarship launched officially with a small ceremony. Invited to cut the ribbon, I stood beside Sarah, the scissors cool in my hand. As the fabric parted, applause rose, a wave of affirmation. Recipients shared stories, dreams fueled by opportunity. Paul's vision alive in their eyes. It healed parts I didn't know still ached. Post-event calls from old friends poured in, reminiscing about Paul, offering support long overdue. One suggested a reunion gathering at the house. I hosted simple yet heartfelt barbecue scents, mingling laughter echoing. Stories flowed, his quirks. Our adventures, the room alive with memory. It bridged past and present, mending invisible tears. Inspired, I started a personal project, compiling Paul's letters and notes into a bound collection. Typing them out, reliving words brought tears and smiles. Sharing with David, he suggested publishing privately for family and friends. The idea grew a way to extend his wisdom beyond. Laura visited unexpectedly, bearing wine and updates. Over glasses, we reflected on the case, her sharp mind now softened in friendship. She shared similar stories, victories, and justice, reminding me of broader impact. Parting with a hug, the bond enduring. Community involvement deepened, leading a workshop on estate, planning empowering others to avoid pitfalls. Attendees grateful, their questions echoing my past uncertainties. It was giving back, turning pain into purpose. A weekend getaway to the coast, refreshed, salt airwaves crashing, thoughts clearing. Walking the beach, shells collected like mementos of resilience. Returning invigorated, ready for fall's approach. The house prepared for seasons, cozy blankets, books stacked. Evenings with tea, reflections deepened. New volunteer role at the library. Story hours for kids brought joy, their wide eyes mirroring wonder. Paul instilled. One child asked about loss, I shared, gently planting seeds of empathy. The Foundation's report highlighted growth, scholarships awarded, lives changed. My name noted, contributor, a quiet nod. It sufficed. As leaves turned, I visited the grave, flowers in hand. Speaking softly, updates, dreams, the connection unbroken. Home, a sense of completeness settled. The story once fractured, now whole, woven with threads of strength. If echoes you're reclaiming know, persistence lights the way. Thankful for the shared steps. Fall arrived with crisp leaves and a sense of harvest. Gathering the fruits of my journey. The air carried a chill, but my heart warmed with progress. Morning's fogged windows cleared to reveal golden hues, a canvas of change. I embraced it, raking paths, clearing space for new growth. The Foundation invited me to a panel on legacy building, sharing the stage with experts. My voice confident. I spoke of integrity in planning, the pitfalls of trust misplaced. Audience engaged, questions probing, it fueled connection. Post-talk networking led to collaborations, potential workshops expanding reach. David joined for dinner after recounting the day with humor. Our friendship solidified beyond legal ties. He shared personal stories, vulnerabilities revealed deepening bond. Inspired, I explored writing, penning essays on grief and resilience. Submitting to local publications, one accepted, a milestone. Readers responded, letters of resonance affirming impact. Community events filled calendar, harvest fairs, book clubs. At one, a chance meeting with a widow, her story, similar, we exchanged. Contacts, support budding. Home transformations continued, a reading nook added, Paul's chair repositioned. Evenings there, book in hand, peace enveloping. A surprise package from Sarah Foundation, mementos, photos, documents. Sifting through nostalgia, surged but empowering. Archiving them, digitally preserved for future. Volunteer shifts at the center intensified, holiday prep for families. Decorating, baking, joy and giving. Children's laughter healed lingering voids. As holidays neared, I hosted a small gathering, friends, family by choice. Toast to Paul, memories shared, warmth filling spaces. Gifts exchanged, simple, meaningful. New Year's approached, reflections deepened. Journaling the year's arc from despair to empowerment. Resolutions focused on continued growth, travel writing. A trip planned to Europe, tracing old paths, renewing spirit. The story evolved, chapters closing, others opening. Legacy not in assets, but in lives touched, truths upheld. If mirrors your path, know each step forward counts. Grateful for the companionship. Winter's embrace brought introspection. And quiet strength blanketing. The world in white. Snowfall's muffled sounds allowing deeper listening to inner voice. Ventured out, bundled walks. Crisp air, invigorating thoughts, clarifying. The Foundation's winter initiative. Aiding families in need drew me in. Organizing drives, distributing warmth. Seeing gratitude in eyes reaffirmed purpose. David and Laura joined a holiday meal, laughter mingling with reflections. Bonds forged in trial, now celebrated in joy. Writing progressed, another piece published, feedback encouraging. A blog started sharing stories, anonymously inviting others to contribute. Community grew, voices uniting and healing. A retreat attended, focused on mindfulness practices, centering, grounding. Returning, tools in hand for daily peace. Home, a haven, fires crackling, books devoured. Calls from scholars, updates on progress, pride swelling. One visited, sharing achievements, Paul's legacy living. As snow melted, hints of spring emerged, hope renewing. The journey, a tapestry woven with care. From erasure to embrace, the path illuminated. If touches you're reclaiming, no light awaits. Thankful for the shared narrative. Spring returned, cycles completing, growth evident in every bud. The garden awakened, my hands in soil planting futures. The Foundation's anniversary event honored milestones, my role acknowledged in speech. Standing applauded, humility and pride intertwined. Collaborations flourished, workshops led, lives guided. Writing evolved, a book outlined, stories compiled. David's encouragement propelled forward. Travels resumed, mountains revisited, peace profound. Home evenings, reflective, tea in hand, sky watched. Connections deepened, new friends, old bonds. The story once shadowed, now radiant, truth prevailing. Legacy secured, not in battles, but in quiet stands. If echoes your victories, know you're seen. Thank you for the journey's end and new beginnings.